What we're going to do is look at simplifying polynomials. But before we simplify polynomials, we need to know the names of polynomials. There's two different ways that we classify polynomials. One is by the number of terms, and the other one is by the number of degrees. So when we're looking at the number of terms, we're talking about a monomial has one term, as our example. A binomial has two terms. 2x and 6 are the two terms. Trinomial has three terms, and you should be familiar with those from Algebra 1. Then if something has four or more terms, we call it a polynomial. Poly meaning many. So those are the four different ways we're going to classify it in terms of number of terms. The other way is number of degrees. That's looking at the exponent, and it's the highest exponent. So if you don't have a variable, it's called a constant, like our example. In this case, we have two terms. We always look at the one with the highest degree, so that would be a 1, so that's why it's a linear term. The highest degree here is a 2, that's why it's a quadratic. The highest degree here is a 3, that's why it's a cubic. And the highest degree here is a 4, that's a quartic. These are the main ones that we're looking at in Algebra 2. The first four, 0, I should say the first three, 0, 1, and 2, constant, linear, and quadratic, we talked about in Algebra 1. Cubics and quartics, we're going to spend a little bit more time with in Algebra 2. So example 1, we're going to name the polynomial by the number of terms and degrees. So for our first one, there's one term, so we call that a monomial. And the degree is 1, so we call that linear. For the second one, we have two terms, so that would be a binomial, just like a bicycle. And the highest degree is a 2, so we call that a quadratic. For letter C, we have three terms, so we call that a trinomial. And our highest degree is 2, so that would be a quadratic. For letter D, notice that we have 4. Anytime it's 4 or more, we just call it a polynomial. And our highest degree is a 3, so we call that a cubic. So that's how we classify polynomials. Now what we're going to do is we're going to simplify. Simplifying, we're going to add the like terms. So we're going to look at our x squareds, and we have 5x squared. We're going to look at our x's, and we have 2x. And we're going to look at our constant value, and that gives us negative 4. Now with this one right here, I'm going to distribute the negative to each of the terms. So I have negative x minus 9. That just helps me out. I'm going to go in descending order. So I'm going to take my highest x first. There's no other cubes, so I'm going to bring down my 4x cubed. Now I'm going to look at squares, and when I'm looking at the squares, I see an x squared right here and an x squared right there. So that would be negative 6x squared. Now I'm going to look at my x's, and when I'm looking at my x's, I have the negative x and I have the 3x. So that right there would be 2x. And when I'm looking at my constant values, I have the negative 9 and the negative 9, which is negative 18. Now for letter C, what I'm going to do is I'm going to FOIL. Now when I'm foiling it, I'm going to multiply the x squared with the negative 4x squared, and that's going to give me negative 4x to the fourth. Remember, when I multiply, I add exponents. For the next one, I get negative x cubed. And for the next one, I get x squared. Then I'm going to multiply my negative 2x by each of the terms. So I get positive 8x cubed, positive 2x squared, and minus 2x. And then for my third one, negative 1 gives me 4x squared. That gives me x. and this gives me minus 1. So I'm going to add my like terms. There's only one that's degree 4, so I'm just going to bring that down, negative 4x to the 4th. Then I'm looking at my cubes, and I see 2 of them, plus 7x cubed. I'm going to look for my squares, x squared, 2x squared, and 4x squared. That right there gives me 7x squared. And my x's, negative 2x, and x is negative x, and then minus 1. Now for letter D, whenever you have something squared, you're writing it twice. So that means that we're going to do the same thing that we just did on the last one. We're going to take the x squared and we're going to multiply it by each of the terms. So x to the 4th minus 3x to the 3rd plus 5x squared. Then I'm going to multiply the negative 3x. So negative 3x to the 3rd, positive 9x squared, and then negative 15x. Then I'm going to take my last one. That gives me 5x squared. Then I have negative 15x. And I have plus 25. I have the x to the 4th. Sometimes it's nice to cross them out, makes it easier to see. Then I have my negative 6x cubed. For the squareds, I have 5, 9, and 5, so that would be 19x squared. And then negative 30x plus 25. So let's do a little bit of review here. I'm going to subtract, so I'm changing all my signs. Negative 9x squared plus x minus 10. So when I add the like terms, I have negative 4x squared. Then I have negative 6x. And I have negative 4. Now for letter F, I have 3 binomials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 2 of the binomials, and then I'm going to multiply the third one by the product of the other 2. It doesn't matter which one you do first. I always like to try to figure out the easiest ones to start with. It looks like those 2 are the easiest. I see that they're the difference of squares. So in my mind, I already know what the product is going to be. But we multiply it and we get 4x squared plus 2x minus 2x and minus 1. If you remember, conjugates is another word that we kind of use where the middle terms cancel. And so it makes it really easy to multiply difference of squares because the middle terms cancel, so it's really easy to do. Now with this one right here, what I like to do is go in descending order. So I'm going to multiply the 4x squared by the x, and that gives me 4x cubed. Then I'm going to go 4x squared times the 4, that gives me 16x squared. Then the x, then what I'm going to do is multiply the negative 1 by the x, and I get negative x, and the negative 1 by the 4, which is negative 4. Could have done it a different way, and then just have to rearrange them at the end.